Thank you for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. Let's check out the dailies this morning right here on TVC Breakfast. We have a host of them with us, divergent stories, of course. I start off with The Nation. And, well, according to a national leader of the opposition People Democratic Party, that's Bode George, he's positing on why the party's flag bearer, Atiku Abubakar, may lose next year's election, saying there is no justification for the national chairman of the party, Yochia Ayu, to remain in office. In the meantime, the party appears to be moving on in spite of this lingering controversies. Sokoto State Governor Tambuwal leads a 326-member campaign council. That's Atiku Tambuwal there, while Governors Wike and Makinde, as well as other dignitaries, Dokwesi, Imoke, listed as members of the Presidential Campaign Council. These and more on The Nation. Now to first news, 2023 presidency, the presidential election, that is, there is a certain poll set to give Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, a head start over the APC's flag bearer, Asiwaju Tinubu, as well as the PDP's Atiku Abubakar. That's on the first news. Over now to Veronica.
All right, and we move over to the front page of the Business Day, still talking about the poll. The new poll puts Obi in strong lead over Atiku Abubakar and Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, and Tinubu Kwankwaso dismissed poll as dubious, misleading. You find the details of the story on the front page of the Business Day. Right, move to this Nigerian newspaper now, and is looking at 400 billion naira projects padded in budget, says ICPC. That's the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission. Speaking there, it tracks 49.9 billion naira collected as salaries by ghost workers from January to June of 2020. All right, so you find the details of the story on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. We'll move now to the Nigerian News Direct. ICPC alleges 400 billion naira padding in 2021-2022 budgets, uncovers 49.9 billion naira salaries for ghost workers as Senate probes 1.4 billion naira and earmarked for moribund NIMCO. You'll find the story on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct. We also move to the Standard Times, still talking about the ICPC discovery. It says 49.9 billion naira fraud uncovered in MDA's payroll for 2022 in 6 months, 300 billion last year. ICPC speaking as well. All right, to the front page of the Daily Trust now. Inflation surge ravaging economies across Africa as Nigeria rises to a 17-year high. Ghana, Malawi, Rwanda struggle with local currencies. Complementary policies needed to boost food production. Experts speaking. And on the front page of the Blueprint, Odili Tanko Aboki's exit depletes JSCs from 21 to 13. CJN Ariwola laments yawning gap, drastic workload. Body of Sands for process of appointing judges. Any delay in filling the gaps will spell doom for judiciary. Usman speaking. Will spell doom, I beg your pardon, for judiciary. Usman speaking there. Kelly?
All right, the Punch is next. It says economic crisis, job losses worsen, food crisis, prices rather soar. Economic crisis, job losses worsen, food prices soar. Nasima worries over rising prices, says companies face tougher times. An inflation spike will throw more Nigerians into poverty. Inflation spike will throw more Nigerians into poverty, says LCCI. That's the Punch, staying with the latest inflation rate released only just yesterday by the MBS. And the leadership is next. The leadership is next. It says 1995 Doba Hotel. Gauda Kauto's wife, Madi, lied. My husband didn't plant bomb. Gauda Kauto's wife, Madi, lied. My husband didn't plant bomb. It'll be an interesting read and revelation. That's the leadership newspaper. And Nation News is next. It says 2022 rainy season, flood ravages Nigeria. Expect more disaster. And 300 Nigerians killed so far. That's according to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Well, some concerns for us.
Right. Was it earlier in the week or so? We also had to talk about the flood situation, bringing in experts after experts to, talk about the state of the country, talking about floods, the environmental impact of this, on not just on the citizenry, but even, on the environment itself, on welfare, on lives and property.
Even for our farms. I was at the Mile 12 International Market yesterday, and most of the complaints, I was surprised and I was shocked. I thought the farmers, or the sellers there would have said the farmers are complaining more about insecurity. But to my greatest shock and surprise, it was more about the floods, how it has impacted and affected the farmers, washing away their crops and all of that. So, I mean, well, I'm yet to file the reports, but I was really very shocked.
That must be revealing,
yes,
because for a long time that had been the narrative out there, that farmers cannot go to their farms to farm because of the dire security challenges. And now with this, the impact of the floods on the food we eat, on the quantity of food that farmers can harvest, that is also concerning, especially with one of the papers talking about the latest inflation rate of 20%. That's alarming. That's alarming.
It's alarming. It's a dire situation we have found ourselves. A critical one at that. If farmers cannot go to the farm, and the little resource we have with the number of the population of the country, it's something that is overstretched. The rising population.
Because we're still producing.
Yes. So, Kelly. Anyway, it's a lot. It's going to tell in the nearest future, because if something is not done to address that, climate change, you have to come up with, ways to addressing it, strategic ways of addressing it. States have to take up responsibility. The government has to also take up responsibility. Sure. We can't keep waiting on other countries around the world for funds to address this matter. We have the ecological fund. What are we doing with that? What have we done so far? Remember the 2012 floods, where a lot of states, were affected. Kogi State, for instance, a particular place was swallowed up by the floods. Houses, a lot of people couldn't stay in their house. And now you're talking about food, the impact on food. And we know most of this part in the north, in the north central, they are farmers. We already know this. What are we doing? That's the question. To address this matter, what are we doing to ensure that it does not reoccur? Prevention, they say, is better than cure, but we wait until it happens before we put on preventive measures to address this matter. And it does not go that far to addressing the case.
And what even makes the case very puzzling is because this is flood. As in year after year, we are faced with this challenge. And you talked about 2012, even last year, even presently now, but then when you do a post-mortem, you ask yourself, what lessons have we learned? Are we still making the same mistakes as a people, as a government? All this. I'm talking about the donations, international donations. There is a general fatigue, by donors. Agencies are calling on governments to do more within themselves and not look out and not be on the lookout, for donations, because generally there is a global inflationary problem, inflationary challenge. So I think the onus lies more heavily now, more than ever, on national leadership governments need to really be more responsible.
Yes, I mean, taking up from the issue around depending on the West, for instance, for loans and all of that, that may not work anymore in the coming months. Russia has put a halt on the Nord Stream 1 that supplies gas to Europe, especially Germany. In the next few months, I am not an economist, but the little I'm seeing and reading, in the next few months, Europe, the energy prices in Europe is going to soar even the more. And so we cannot rely and depend on these people. Take, for instance, the inflation rate that was released yesterday, 20.52%. In fact, analysts and economists even argue that that number should be more.
Could still be, could be.
It's not reflective of the realities. Yes.
Because when you look at what is playing out in the markets, for instance, what you buy today, by next week, Tuesday or Wednesday.
No, in the evening.
Later in the day.
evening.
Later in the day. It has come to that point.
It will just skyrocket, and you ask yourself, I just bought this thing a day ago, a few hours ago. So, and that's where we are headed. That's where people. Take, for instance, the Punch pointing out comments from the LCCI. LCCI is saying that inflation spike will throw more Nigerians into poverty. Mr. President promised to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Yet, this is set to throw millions or more Nigerians. The World Bank says this inflation at the end of this year will throw about 1 million Nigerians. 1
million more
Nigerians into poverty, according to the World Bank, this year, 2022. And so if we continue on this trend, Nasima, according to the Punch, also is worried that companies will face tougher times with job losses and all of that. It's not an interesting time at all. We know there's a war in Ukraine, and while these world powers continue to be at loggerheads and all of that, I'm also just praying that China will also stay at their corner and not get to invade Taiwan. Because if that happens as well,
it will worsen the situation.
It will worsen the situation, absolutely.
And it's going to be a global, of course, nations are reeling from the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And talk less of another
Nigeria and the
set of
continent where the
countries warring
hardest hit, because we have always not been a nation or continent that plans or prepares for this kind of things. We have always rather been a dependent country and continent. We always rely and depend on the West
we have
for
the resources.
And what even makes the case more appalling now is the issue of corruption. But carry on, please.
I was going to say we depend on the West so much that someone was saying, I think the last quarter, the capital importation from the UK alone was almost about 70%. So someone was asking, the day the UK decides not to invest anymore in Nigeria, what will happen to our economy? The day countries around the world stop buying fuel or our crude, what will happen to us?
What are the buffers, here in the country? What are the options? What are the options? The non-oil sector is still there, still ridden with many challenges. Indeed, it's a whole systemic problem that needs urgent attention.